I was passionate about the program that I started at the bank, which is where they would come and do tours, which the tours were already in effect, but I added the financial literacy aspect. So high school students would come and they would take a tour of the bank, and that used to be what it was. And I decided to have a conversation with our management team and say, hey, I would like to sit down and talk to these kids about credit, because it's not being taught in schools, and a lot of parents are coming in and they don't know what's going on, and so I know they're not teaching it to their kids. And so I would have that conversation with them, and a brief conversation, but trying to get them interested.
The top 3 responses that I get when I ask, why do you want to leave corporate America, are that you want financial freedom, you want to own your own time, and you want to build a legacy for this generation and generations to come. Now, this is not a solo job. In order to transition from your 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship, it's going to take community and it's going to take resources. And I've created the community of pioneers who are going to wrap around you and help you make that transition successfully. So if you're interested in leaving your job, go ahead and click that information below. Let's get into the community and let's transition from your 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship successfully. Now let's get back to the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Work and Play podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, and I have a really fabulous guest who kind of like is the beginning. She's in my love circle, guys. And she's at the beginning in the heart of Work and Play for me. And so I'm really, really proud and honored for you to be on the couch with me.
I'm excited.
Miss Tunde Itebe. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Nice to
have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So on the Work and Play podcast, we talk about life transitions, career transitions, and self-actualization, and what all of those things mean to us. But without further ado, I think first we can start with introductions, and then we can kind of go back into our story and then get into your story. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Tunde Itebe. I recently started a small business where I do private dining and small catering. So yeah, that's fried, baked, battered.
Yes, fried, baked, battered. And I think getting into your story, what's most interesting is I think our hearts connected over food.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
I would agree. Yep. Sunday dinner.
Yes. Like those things literally lit up my life in cold Minnesota.
Right.
And not only that, that's just your lane. I feel like that's your zone of genius.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you think of like when you came up with fried baked batter, like what was the inspiration for it?
So I've always really kind of had a passion for food, and I love entertaining people. I love caring for people, and so my love language is just kind of feeding people, right? So I enjoy cooking. But a lot of people ask me, do I cook for myself? And they're shocked by my answer, which is usually no. But when you add other people, especially people that I love, into the mixture, I'm just like, I could feed you I could cook all day long, right? And just sit there and watch you eat my food and just be happy, So, so when I was coming to visit, my sister, my mom, they'd ask me to cook. My niece would ask me to cook. And I have a friend who started their business not too long ago where they do date nights. And I just kind of reached out and I was like, hey, while I'm here in town, I'd love to collaborate with you. I haven't cooked professionally in so long because I've been working in banking for the past 8-9 years. And so I reached out. She was like, yeah, I actually have a few gigs. I went and did those and it just kind of re-sparked the passion. And so I decided to start the page and we're here.
And we're here in Atlanta, by the way. So Fried Baked Battered is in Atlanta, Georgia. And before we get into your story, what's Fried Baked and Battered specialty? What's your specialty?
It is new. So I am still, trying, I'm in the creative process, I guess you would say.
I love that.
I like to curate menus specific to my client. I work with them and, I do have a menu and it's kind of like Americana. So there's lamb chops, mac and cheese, that kind of roasted veggies, that kind of thing. I welcome my clients to make special requests because I'm always happy to hear what they love to eat and, see how I can put my own spin on that to, please everybody. And so that's kind of like what I like to do.
So you're still in the creative spaces, and some of the stuff that lamb chops and things like that, those were like, listen guys, Sunday dinner was always lit, and we turned those things into some real Sunday dinner.
We did.
Like we were cooking oxtails. I want to say we had lamb at one point.
We did. We had lamb shanks, roasted lamb shanks.
You remember that time when we made those ice cream sandwiches?
I do.
We made the cookies from scratch
Yep.
and literally made ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah.
It was so dope. Oh man! So another element that's on the show is what we all have in common. What many of our guests have in common is they either are in corporate America or left corporate America, and you're currently in your transition where you have like one foot in corporate, one foot in your business, right? And you mentioned that you had spent 7 years in banking.
It's been like 7-8 years, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like your journey in going into banking and how you became a banking professional.
So I moved to Minnesota like 7-8 years ago.
From Atlanta?
From Atlanta, yeah. And I was just looking for work. I had gotten out of culinary school, hadn't really been working in my field, and so I just decided to start with retail. I was working actually at the Mall of America, and I was not feeling those hours. And I was like, I need a 9-to-5 with a steady, regular paycheck and benefits. So I started looking into banking because it seemed like the perfect transition from retail into corporate America because it's actually considered retail banking. And so I started off as a teller, worked very hard. I became a customer sales service representative, became a personal banker. And yeah, that I was at Wells Fargo for about like 5-6 years. Pretty traumatic, but
was it?
It was. So I left and now I work for US Bank.
So I mean, I can't like leave the traumatic piece behind. So like, cause I'm sitting here remembering like being in Minneapolis with you and just watching you go in and out of work. I don't think I remember any traumatic stories. So like, what was traumatic about it? Was it the business or was it the customer service side of things? Or was it the back end, like admin, like side of things?
A bit of both, but definitely the back end of things. Just the operations management was pretty difficult, in the company.
Yeah, was banking really ever what you wanted? Because you went from culinary arts into retail and then into banking. Like, it was a logical decision, but was it ever like, did it have anything to do with your passion? Are you passionate about like money?
I'm not. I'm passionate about my money, not necessarily other people. I did like certain aspects, that working in corporate America, afforded me certain things I was able to do because I was in that, arena. So I liked the steady paycheck. I liked, my working hours. I liked, bank holidays. I also am really passionate about volunteer work. And so I liked having the time and allotment to do that. I also liked having the resources to do that. And I really realized in that working, at Wells Fargo, with especially being a personal banker, that there's such a gap as far as financial literacy, especially within our community. And that was a major issue for me. So anybody that I could get down at my desk and have them sit down and talk with me and, try and educate them, that felt good to me. So I felt like I was being fulfilled in that sense. But that's pretty much it. The job it wasn't fulfilling. I wasn't passionate about it. I was passionate about the program that I started at the bank, which is where they would come and do tours, which the tours were already in effect, but I added the financial literacy aspect. So high school students would come and they would take a tour of the bank, and that used to be what it was. And I decided to have a conversation with our management team and say, hey, I would like to sit down and talk to these kids about credit because it's not being taught in schools, and a lot of parents are coming in and they don't know what's going on, and so I know they're not teaching it to their kids.
Yeah.
And so I would have that conversation with them, and a brief conversation, but trying to get them
Exposed.
interested.
Yeah. I think there are adults still in the dark about credit and financial literacy. So when you when you brought it up to the kids, and even in a brief conversation, what did you notice was the one thing that they clung to? What was the one piece of information that you knew they walked away understanding after these conversations?
I think they walked away just understanding how important it is.
Okay.
And that no matter how much money that you're making, credit is still important. So a lot of the kids were like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be, a millionaire. I'm like, well, that's great, but they're still going to run your credit. And if you don't have any, then you're going to be, out of luck.
Yeah.
And there are, of course, situations where you can bypass that, but the majority of you, that's not going to be the case. So start working.
Take that seriously. Yeah. I mean, even if you're a millionaire, you still want to qualify for that black card. Right? So absolutely. I can imagine having conversations like that. And I didn't know that you even now that I think about Wells Fargo, and they are pretty community engagement oriented, but I didn't know that you took advantage of volunteer days. And so for those of you guys who don't know, I've had your sister, Itebe, on here, and she talked a lot about North Minneapolis and how in Atlanta we have more successful black people, and I would say we have a range of successful, middle class, and then poverty. But I feel like in Minneapolis it was more poverty and then
absolutely,
corporate really.
Yes.
So when you went out into your volunteer experiences, what type of people did you interface with then?
So primarily it was people who look like us. One of the places I would volunteer at, it was at-risk youth. And it was just a day center, so they could come during the day to get something to eat, wash their clothes, take a shower, use the computer, use those resources. But a lot of those people would age out. And so they would be there, throughout their youth and then age out and not be able to come back anymore. But yeah, typically people that, young black and brown people.
Yeah. That's really cool that you started a whole program do you know if they're still doing that?
I don't know, because when I left, there was no one willing to take it over. Now, I'm sure they're still doing the tours, but as far as the financial literacy aspect of it, I don't know that continued on.
We got to revive that in Atlanta. I love passion projects like this where all we need to do is literally reinvigorate another bank and say, hey, this is something that has already worked in Minneapolis.
Right.
We can do it here, and we can track the results. Right. Some school kids who don't know anything about credit. And Atlanta is the capital of entrepreneurs. Right. So with kids knowing more and more about credit, they can start their business earlier. I'm thinking about my own process of getting business credit and how they check my personal credit first. The sooner you do it, the better.
Right.
That's awesome, sure. Tunde.
Thank you.
I didn't know that. I'm so glad you shared that. So food, is that your passion? Thank you so much for watching the Work and Play podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Boss Up Conference, which is a community for entrepreneurs, CEOs, celebrities, and corporate executives to come together, network, and solve some problems. Thank y'all so much for being supporters of the Work and Play podcast. And thank you for watching the Work and Play podcast and all the episodes before. Now let's get back to the episode.
I think people is my passion.
People. Serving people.
Serving people, yes. And I just happen to love food. And I happen to be, I would consider myself a creative. So loving food, being creative, it just kind of all comes together, serving people. And so I'm happy when I'm able to make other people happy, if that makes sense. And so cooking for other people, I think everybody likes to eat. Yeah. And then I'm Nigerian, so it's you come over and it's you have to eat. Yeah. So. Yeah. So outside of the food, when was the first time you noticed, when you truly acknowledged this side of you that's I like serving people? I don't know that I can pinpoint a time. I will say that when I moved to Minneapolis, it sparked a passion because, I grew up in Georgia, but I grew up outside of the city. So I grew up in the suburbs. And when I moved to Minneapolis, I was in the city. I was working in the city, living, very close to the city. And I would see a lot of homeless people downtown. And I wasn't really used to that. Like, you know, kind of like in your face kind of thing. Now growing up, like my mom was always, you know, she would always do things like we would donate clothes and, you know, volunteer here and there. But I think moving to the city really sparked my passion for it, because I was just kind of like, how are all these people just living on the street?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, there are homeless people, but it's another thing to like, you
experience them.
Yeah, especially so many young people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of young people on the streets, and it was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Because I never didn't have a place to sleep or didn't have a meal to eat, or, you know.
My first time volunteering was when I was 25. And it was when I went to a homeless shelter, and I just thought like, oh, we're going to teach these kids life skills. And I learned, oh, you're a year younger than me, and you know more than me about life.
Right.
Like, oh, like there's a whole other world that I just recognize. So I resonate with that experience where you live your whole life as an adult, and then you get to a place where you're like, hold on, wait a minute. These stories that we talk about of impoverished people, and it's like, no, it's right under our noses, and sometimes people don't do anything about it. So I just commend you for even like noticing that and talking about that. Like, we could have had a Sunday dinner out with like literally going out to serve people if I had known, but I didn't become passionate about, because I was 24 before I left Minneapolis. So I didn't become passionate about the homeless or any social justice issues until I moved to Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was when I was like, my world was open. So it's even great that your life took you to Minneapolis, which started to bring your awareness to like people who need to be served. So what was the first opportunity you took to serve, like to actually go out there, boots on the ground, and help?
So I think I just Googled it one day, actually, and it was a place called People Serving People, and literally just took the volunteer hours off of work and went to go serve meals. And I really enjoyed it, so took it back to work, and actually one Saturday took all my coworkers with me to go and serve. I believe we went to serve breakfast. So we just signed up online, and, you know, and granted it's only, you know, a meal, but they do need volunteers to do it. So it wasn't like a Thanksgiving thing, because Thanksgiving, you know, people always sign up. Those days are always booked way in advance, but they need people to serve every day of the week, because those people don't only eat on holidays. They have to eat every day of the week. Right. And so, yeah.
So that was the first time.
It was the first time.
Tunde, I'm starting to see this other side of you. This, like, in your professional life, you take all this initiative to, like, bring financial literacy to adults who don't necessarily know, bring financial literacy to children who are just coming to the bank tours, helping out the people who are experiencing homelessness, like, and then having a very, 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 like, I want to just kind of put a pin in that, a very informed perspective on the fact that everybody wants to help on Thanksgiving and Christmas and holidays. But those days that really, really matter are like those random Tuesdays where, like, yeah, they could possibly have like a peanut butter sandwich and some like cold water, but you coming in with like fresh cooked food, that's like, it makes a world of difference. Right. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so like, as we go further, well, you know what? You're actually formally trained in cooking. So my mind is going, because I know you, like, I'm like all over the place, and I typically don't know my guests, so I'm like literally finding out for the first time. But what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
I definitely thought I was going to be an Iron Chef. Like, if we're going back to like when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be an Iron Chef. I did. When I was growing up, there was a period of time we didn't have cable, and we had PBS, and I would watch Julia Childs. Really? And I was like, yo, I could do this. I could be her. Like, I could be her. And my mom, like, people would always ask her to cook for events because her food, you know, like, is great. And so like anytime there was like events, they would ask her to cook Nigerian food and stuff like that. So I've watched my mom cook in the kitchen growing up my whole life. And then I'm like, there's this person on TV cooking. That's dope. And then like we got cable again. And so now I have the Food Network. And I'm like, yo, there are people doing competitions. Like, that's dope. Like, I want to do that. So I definitely thought I was going to be an Iron Chef or on Chopped or something like that. So.
You're not too far off, though. Like, you're not too far off because the contestants are typically like people who have had like cooking experience. They've gone to the cordon bleus of the world. They know how to like throw some things together.
Right.
But so you mentioned you're Nigerian. Were you like really into being the Nigerian Julian Childs back then? Or were you big on like cooking Nigerian foods only?
So that's not really my area of expertise, actually. Funnily enough. I think it's because my mom had me peeling Maggi cubes, like,
What's
in the
a
bag.
Maggi cube? What's a Maggi cube?
It's a seasoning cube. So it's like a chicken bouillon cube. And so Maggi is the brand.
Got
so we
you.
just call it Maggi cubes.
Got you. I'm there.
But yeah, so I wasn't too involved, and I wish I was in the kitchen more. But I'm actually picking up those recipes now, so it's kind of cool. So like in my mom's kitchen, I get to just kind of hang out and watch her cook those. But growing up, I was thinking more French cooking, being classically trained, and then I've always wanted to take Nigerian food and bring it to the masses, essentially. So like the way Chinese food is kind of like on every street corner, kind of make it like that, make it accessible, make it,
So you talking about like having jollof rice like on every single corner. So and what do you say, egusi?
Egusi, yeah.
Having like egusi and like jollof rice and all of the good stuff.
All of that.
Can y'all make it vegan though?
Let me see what we can do about the vegan options. Puff Puff is vegan.
What's Puff Puff?
It's like a Nigerian donut.
Okay.
So it's actually it's really simple. It's water, flour, yeast, and sugar.
Okay.
And then you can kind of add your own seasoning. So some people add vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg. So you can eat it like that.
I want some of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'll just go to the Nigerian restaurants and just pull up and get
Puff Puff.
Puff Puff. Okay. When I went to Ghana, it was real hard to find fresh veggies. So I compromised a lot.
Why was it hard to find fresh?
It was just
cooked?
I just think where I was at, everything was meat, rice, fufu, kenke. I mean, like I told you, I didn't have a problem once I made my decision. I wasn't going to starve.
Right. That's real.
I was no longer like, where's the broccoli? Where's the, can I get some collard greens? I just ate what I ate. And it wasn't a lot of, veggies. So, in Nigerian tradition, do you guys have a lot of vegetable dishes?
Yes, but I don't know of a dish that doesn't contain Maggi in it. So it's got like that chicken bouillon or beef bouillon or something like that. Usually, because you can technically make some of the dishes without meat or without seafood or anything like that. But the seasoning may still contain that. So I guess it depends on your level of
veganism. Well, in America, I'm pretty strict, but it just depends. It kind of does depend. It's because it's more of a health decision, less of spiritual.
Gotcha.
But
I'm noticing a market that hasn't really been filled. Vegan, Africans.
Oh, vegan Africans. Look at you. I'm sure there's some vegetarians though. I'm sure. Because when you think about some of you guys, some of the dishes, if you just take the meat out, a lot of things are veggie actually. And then if you don't cook it with the chickens of the world or something like that, and you can just have the chickens, the porks, the beefs, then you pretty much just got veggies. And if you live far enough in the country of Africa, meat is a luxury. Sometimes you probably eat more rice than anything, right? So technically there's some vegetarians out there.
Sure. Yeah.
So back to you.
Yes.
We wanted to be, the Julia Childs,
Right.
the Nigerian Julia Childs, and you went off into high school. Did that passion die at any point? But I guess not really, because you went to culinary school.
I did. I went to culinary school, and then I wouldn't say the passion died, but I got a reality check because I went to culinary school right out of high school, and I had never worked in a restaurant. And so when I did my externship working, in an industrial kitchen, it was a bit overwhelming for me. And I noticed that that's not the route I want to go, even if I do stay in the culinary field. And so that just kind of shook me up a bit, because I knew that in order to my thought process was, in order to get there, right, to be the Julia Childs or, Iron Chef, I would need to gain all that experience working in a kitchen as a line cook, working under an executive chef. But yeah, I just had a really bad experience with my externship, and it just kind of deterred me. And so I stopped cooking for a long time, actually.
Could you have, if you had known, could you have gotten that experience sooner?
Yeah, I probably could have started working in a restaurant like in high school, or even started working in a restaurant outside of high school before I decided to go to culinary school. But I honestly think it would have been the same result, because again, I feel like I realized in going into that industrial kitchen and working for my externship that was not the lane that I felt was for me.
Yeah.
And so I still, to this day, like I don't first see myself being a line cook or, working in a restaurant kitchen.
It sounds like you learned a lot about yourself in that experience, because if you'd done that in high school, you still would have come to the same conclusion. So what was it that you learned about yourself that says, like, I'm not suited for industrial kitchens, but like I'm suited for, and you have to give me what that next thing is?
So honestly, I think I just realized what an anxious person I am, and that I don't really flourish under super intense environments like that. Kitchens tend to be super intense. Also, I didn't like the hours. I didn't like, working holidays. I'm a very family-oriented person, and I like to spend as much time with my family as I possibly can. So I definitely realized, like, hey, restaurants are open on weekends, nights, holidays, and you're expected to work long hours, standing up on your feet in a very fast-paced, physically demanding, can be very overwhelming and anxiety-inducing environment. And so I did learn those things about myself. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And now would you say more so caterer?
I would say private chef is more the lane I'm in. I do small catering, like catering for small events. But private chef is really kind of the lane that I'm in. So I'll come to your home, for example, and you'll pick between a 3-course meal and a 5-course meal, and I'll cook that live for you, or you and your guest. Typically it's 2 to 4 people, but can go up in number. But yeah, a live cooked hot meal in your house. So,
and that allows you to do it in your own time, be in your element. What's your and I know you're starting to like build up your clientele and get into this a little bit more, but like, what's your favorite, or do you set expectations when you go in? Like, what's your favorite type of client, or do you just like, this is what I need in order for me to be great?
So my favorite kind of client is honestly anybody who lets me into their home. I first of all just love that you invited me here and that you trust me to cook, because usually it's for a special occasion, right? So the fact that you trust me to cook this meal for you, I'm happy to be here. I will say I love when I put down a plate and I walk away and I hear somebody pick up the knife and fork, and the next thing I hear, like I love that. I just go back to the kitchen smiling, like whipping it up. But yeah, so that makes me happy.
I love it. So it sounds like clients who let you come in and do your thing.
Right.
And then, because clearly they trust you to come in and just kind of put something together, but also clients who appreciate the work, and then clients who maybe let you take your time?
Yeah, so when I come to do a dinner, I'm fully prepped. And so I've positioned myself at that point, you know, for success, hopefully, right? So I have everything, you know, what we call mise en place, so everything in its place. So I'm just coming in and I'm literally putting things on the stove, you know, like putting things on, you know, in time, just watching, like, okay, like, you know, so things are freshly prepared for you, but everything is really prepped, and I'm coming completely prepared to just throw things on the stove, plate them for you nicely, you know, season, you know, things like that. So
that's nice. I'm like envisioning Hell's Kitchen, where that guy's like yelling, you just like, you could be like the best of the best, and all of a sudden you just turn like you can't cook rice anymore. You're like, don't yell at me. Like, and then like when you don't yell and then he's off the set, it's like, oh my God, this is the best rice ever. Like, yeah, if you stop yelling at me, I can do my thing.
Right.
I love that. When I mean, there's this conversation going on, since I'm in the career space, whether you explore your passion first, or whether you build a career and do something else afterwards. There's a whole debate on which one you should do first. But it's really encouraging to hear that you explored it. You might have explored it in high school, but you explored it first thing, and then you figured out what wasn't a good fit for you, and then as life would have it, you came back around to cooking. Now, it took you some time after that industrial kitchen experience, and you moved to Minneapolis, went into banking, and that has its own like place in your heart of like giving back and serving. And then we started like the Sunday dinners. Now, from my perspective, I don't even remember how they evolved. But from your perspective, was that the first time you got a chance to start back into your like culinary arts? I've gotten so many questions about this brand, and I'm super excited to share that this episode is sponsored by Black is Wealth Clothing. Now, Black is Wealth was created to inspire and empower our culture to tap into our wealth. Now, when we talk about wealth, we're not just talking about financial wealth. We're talking about the strength, resilience, and brilliance that lives inside of all of us. Now, by tapping into our wealth, we can create any form of wealth that we desire. So, if you like this shirt or any other shirt that you've seen me sport on my Instagram or any other platform, then go check them out at blackiswealth.com. I love this one, and y'all are going to love it too. Now let's get back to the episode.
So I guess I never really thought about it like that, but on some level, for sure. I think that's kind of when I discovered, like, okay, I don't have to give up cooking completely, because what I'm really enjoying is hosting. Like you guys would come over and it would be a collaboration, right? But y'all kind of let me try new things and stuff like that. So I would still cook for y'all, but really realized, okay, it's you guys, you know, y'all enjoying the food, enjoying the company, you know, that really was, you know, that sparked the, I guess we sparked the passion. Yeah, I guess on some level.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it until you said, like, it was a while before you started cooking. And when I remember us doing Sunday dinners, yes, it was a collaborative event, but like you were always the star of the show. Like, let's not get started on that chicken that your sister cooked. We know who was the star of the show. It was definitely not me. You know, it was not. But I feel like you were like, in terms of techniques and like, no guys, this is how this should be cooked. Like, there were some things that we were comfortable, like our things. But if we were trying something new, you were like the expert on the team. I mean, at least that's how I saw it. I mean, because we all had our dishes. So from my experience, like, you came in with the expert knowledge. But one thing that we missed was like your time in like Le Cordon Bleu. So when you left the industrial kitchen, what happened next?
I just took a break. I moved back home and I just took a break. And then
back to Atlanta?
No, I was in Georgia when I did my externship. And then I just moved back home to my mother's house.
Got it. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Were you living like on campus, or were you like living in an apartment?
Excuse me. That's wrong. I was living on campus, like in an apartment like designated apartments for the school, while I was in school. And then while I was doing my externship, I moved back home. And then after the externship, I took a break for a little while and then ended up moving to Minneapolis like a year or two later.
Got it. Do you think that experience like took a lot out of you just personally?
I do. Because I felt like I had known what I wanted to do all my life. And then realized that's not what I want to do. And so I kind of went through a really low period for those couple of years. And I didn't really move that much, and so I was still for a while. And then my sister, who's like you mentioned was on the other episode, Agu, she was in Minneapolis, and so I don't say this very much, but my mom thought it was a good idea for me to go live with my sister, and so I moved up there, and Agu's kind of like a no nonsense person, and so she kind of kicked me back on my feet, like, let's start applying for jobs and get you out the house. And, I was a little, I don't want to say lost, but didn't really have a direction, because I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore.
But that's amazing, because a lot of people will not pursue their passion at all, because the world just says that you could have gone to straight get a banking degree, right? And that would have been a whole other distraction away from serving. You would have found a way to serve. Clearly you did when it came to Wells Fargo. But the fact that you did it, right, informs, okay, no, industrial kitchens is not what I want to do. Right. And if we think about it, life has taught you, now that you're back into the cooking space, okay, I'm trying it a different way. Right. Like, if I hate that experience took so much out of you, but it makes sense, because you learned a lot about your personality. Right. You learned about like a little bit of your cooking style, like some of the techniques and the technical part of it. And you even like tested yourself, like, that was we talked about exposures before this started, but that was the extreme exposure. Right. Right. Dumping yourself. Right. Dive in. Yeah, you went head first. So I just commend you for trying. Thank you. Yeah. And not only that, you bounced back. So if I'm piecing this story together properly, you grew up, you grew up watching like the Julia Childs of the world, right? And you finally started to see like the Food Networks and Iron Chef, and you're like, oh, Iron Chef is what it's gonna be. Yep. I love it. And then you pursued your passion. You said, okay, I'm going to learn culinary arts, and I'm going to go up the professional track that I think is what I'm supposed to do. And I feel like we always do. Like when we know, like when people tell us these are the things that you have to do to be successful in this industry, nobody says like, oh no, but there's this entrepreneurial route. Right. There's the personal chef. I don't know how many people are talking about personal chefs in culinary arts, or how many were back then. But they always give us these like traditional routes, and that's how we get caught up with terrible bosses, or like the guy from Hell's Kitchen. Right. You know what I mean? Right. But it's great that so then in the next you went on to banking, and you got a chance to really serve in that way. So that makes sense. And then we started the like Sunday dinners. Right. Which were awesome. Like that's how we became like, a love circle. Right. That will never, ever, 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 like, it will always have a place in my heart. Okay. So now that we've moved back from Minneapolis, well, actually, when moving back to Atlanta from Minneapolis, like, what's that experience been like now that you are transitioning from 9-to-5er to 9-to-5er and entrepreneur, as well as going from Minneapolis to Atlanta? What's that transition like for you?
It's been interesting, to be honest. I've worked 2 jobs in the past, and so it's not unfamiliar to me, but it's just kind of prioritizing what needs to be prioritized at what moment, if that makes sense. Sometimes I do have to decline bookings because I have, the 9 to 5, which does take care of my bills right now, So other times I am able to work both situations out. And so I do when I can. And those tend to be longer days, but, work it out. And then a lot of the times my bookings are on the weekend, and my 9 to 5 does not call for me to work on the weekend. So those are the easiest,
That's a problem every entrepreneur would love to have. Like, to have so many bookings knocking on the door that you're like, sorry, I have to turn you down. Like, that's literally the position people don't want to turn it down, but people would love to be in a position where you have surplus of orders. When you think about your demand right now, and then even the growth of from where you are today to like, if you were to start taking more bookings during the week, do you foresee it really like compensating for your 9 to 5 income?
I think that it could. I'm still figuring out the business end of it, to be quite honest, the finances, and then with food prices, like fluctuating and, learning how to pay myself and, etc. While I'm figuring that out, I could see it working out. I'm just in the process of figuring out what that would look like and what it would take.
What's your process look like? Like, do you start with like finances first and what is like? 'Cause
that's a good question.
You're let's work it out then.
That's a good question. So sometimes I'll watch like YouTube videos, stuff like that. My sister actually just gave me a book because she's currently doing her master's. I'm finishing up here in the next like 2 weeks, but she just gave me a book on like business and entrepreneurship. And so I just started that book this past week. And so, I'm trying to dabble, balance my time as much as possible, because I also realized these last few years as well that I didn't do a lot of the things that I want to do, outside of like passion projects, outside of 9 to 5 work and paying the bills, like I want to travel, I still have like things on my list. And I don't want to say I'm not driven, because I would consider myself driven, but I also feel like in the last couple of years, some life events have happened that have really taught me that we're here for a good time and not a long time. And so because we're not here for a long time, I want to have as good of a time as possible. And so I'm just trying to balance all of those factors.
You said that right. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about my friends at Run the World Clothing. Run the World is a community empowerment brand that chooses to educate on Black history, Black culture, and Black radical thought through apparel and experiences. Run the World is a vessel to celebrate the Black experience for our Black people and our allies. And I have on one of their latest pieces from this season's collection. So if you haven't seen Run the World Vic's episode on the Work and Play podcast, go check it out, or go to their website to check out some of their apparel. Now let's get back to the episode. And as we've experienced some of the lows together, I know exactly what you mean. And we'll leave that there. Right. But the good time and not a long time definitely resonates. Oh, what I was thinking, would you do like a traveling chef?
I would.
That would
fly me out. Okay, I'm ready.
That would be the best like combination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh. I think as you build your clientele now, so one thing that I love about Atlanta is it's the nucleus of entrepreneurship. And everyone is coming up. You know what I mean? Like everyone is growing. Right. So like as your clients start whatever endeavors they're starting and they become really successful at what they're doing, I think we all, like your circle will all like just level up and we'll be like, hey, Tunde, like, I really need that. Right. I'm in Thailand right now, but I really need that. Right. And then you're like, okay, fine, my flight is this. Mm-hmm. Like, ooh. Absolutely. Okay, we got to get the business side of the house done. And then that way, we'll be able to be like, hey, this is my flat rate. Right. It includes my flight, the ingredients. I will figure out how to go around Thailand and get my... Right. Yes. Absolutely. But let's put it out there. Traveling chef. I received that. Please. And then I can come with you. Yes, girl. I'm not the best sous chef, but... We'll work it out. We'll work it out. I love it. It's really been really cool talking to you about it like this because I kind of look at you like a little sister and hearing like your business development. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, you've been a whole grown lady up out here. I'm trying. You pulled the wool over my eyes. I remember that one time I was helping you drive. When I think about like our relationship, I be like, you're like little sis. Right. But you really have taken some big moves. I'm trying. Yeah, not trying. You're doing. Thank you. You're doing. So when you think about the next like 4 to 5 years, and even if you haven't thought about it before, take a moment and you think about fried, baked, battered over the next course of like 5 years. What do you envision in terms of success for your business? I would like for people to hear that and know exactly who it is and what it is. I would also love, you said 4 to 5 years, right? Yeah. I would also love to open my own restaurant within the next 4 to 5 years. And, I don't want to jinx anything or, put anything out there, but I could definitely see that happening within the next 4 to 5 years. Working on myself personally, taking those strides to get to a place where I can do that. Now, you said you want people to know what that means. When I hear fried, baked, battered, I think there's a span of I can indulge in the unhealthy, and this is my mind. See, I'm vegan, right? So I can indulge in the unhealthy. I can give me some fried or battered. But then I can also get it baked. And there's also going to be something for the person who's in between that battered piece where you might not want it hard fried. And you might not want it like super duper like grill baked type, but you want something in between. Is that what you mean by fried baked batter, or what was the inspiration behind that? My sister, Agu, actually came up with the name. And I heard it and I loved it because I feel like, first of all, it rolls off the tongue. I feel like it's catchy. It's easy to remember. And I feel like it, like you said, it covers, a multitude of things, right? Fried, baked, battered, that could include desserts, baked, you know what I'm saying? So it encompasses so much. I felt like it was very me because, like I said, I kind of like to have my hands in everything, if that makes sense, as far as types of food, which is why I like to sit down and like curate those like personalized menus with my customers, because it really, like, there's so many types of food out there, so many different styles of cooking. I know everybody has their niche, but yeah, and you'll find your niche in terms of your business, but there's that array that I want to stick to real quick, because now that we're thinking about fried, baked, batter in that range, I'm also thinking about this range of like Lil Sis and like super duper like helping you drive that and into this like power Black woman in like corporate and in business, which I've never seen, but like not never seen, I've seen, but like growing up, like, and I say growing up as adults, right. And seeing that over time, I'm seeing it. So if we were to say like fried and baked, what's your battered, or what's something that like most people don't know about you? Like cooking wise, or just like in general? In general. That's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer. I'm pretty much an open book. I don't know that there's much that, I could really say that no one knows about me. I think different people get different pieces and parts of me, but for the most part, I think all of me is kind of out there with somebody, to be honest. With somebody? Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that makes sense, because even when I think about our friendships, you share a different vibe between like our friend groups, right? And then I also my mind is like different parts of you is just coming up, and I think about the Julia Child that inspired you to cook, that French, that traditional classical like way of cooking. And now you're thinking about more so Nigerian foods, and I think about even your music selection, like more so like Nigerian music. So like there's a span of who you are in so many ways. Like you could probably kick it with the best of them who love Julia Childs and French cuisine.
I probably could.
Girl, it's not this one. I know French fries. But you probably could. You probably could. Is there anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about? I feel like when it comes to work and play, it's just... I think about so many different things. What do you think about when you think about work and play? What does life look like for you when you think about work and play?
I think work less and play more.
What does play more look like for you?
Right now, it looks like travel. It looks like spending time with family and friends, more travel, eating out, experiences. Like, for example, my sister just, we talked about going to a, blind dining restaurant where it's just completely in the dark. That's the kind of stuff I want to do, you know? Like, we booked tickets to go see, like, an orchestra. That's the kind of stuff I want to do, you know? If somebody called me up and said, hey, let's have a water gun fight at Piedmont Park tomorrow, I'd be down, you know? I'm trying to open myself up a little bit more to doing things because, like I said, life is short and I'm just trying to have as many experiences as possible while I'm blessed enough to be here.
Yeah. So. And if I add the personal chef to that, is that your idea? Like, let's say we all set up a thing, like one of our friends does the orchestra, one of our friends sets up the dining experience, and or another one of our friends just has a party. And if you are the go-to chef for all of those events, would you be down for that? Like, is that the lifestyle that you want?
I would absolutely be open to, you know, doing things like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that somebody would even think like, hey, I'm having this event. Oh my gosh, I know a chef. Tunde, let me call her.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm popping up in somebody's mind, absolutely.
That would be so lit. And then you could literally, like, you can cook for us, do your thing, and then come sit at the dinner table and then just watch it all unfold. That way it doesn't have to be like you serving and then like going back to your like to retreat back to the kitchen, but you get to experience everything. And you know, I'm sure you cook some things like, ooh, I wish I could have that. It's about to be good.
Look, a good chef always tastes the food before they put it out. So
okay, so you get yours in.
I can't just put something out and I haven't tasted it. I gotta taste it first.
You're right.
You know, gotta taste along the way, taste at the end.
Yeah, so you might be full by the time you cook, but I guess you could just spend time with us.
Right.
And do your thing. Right. Well, that's lit. I'm glad we're manifesting this work life, this work play life for you right now. We're going to put it out into the universe and make it happen.
Yes, amen. Received.
Receive it. So one of the things that I like to do on the show is, it's more like a ceremonial question now.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh my God, Hell's Kitchen again? No, but the question is really for us to reach back.
Okay.
And when I think about your journey, I know you might not see it, like the bravery and the courage and like you just being able to try things out and pull yourself out of like a depression, if we call it, right? And to find yourself again, right? Would you say you're finding yourself again?
I would. I would.
Okay, so when I ask you this question, I'm thinking like there's somebody who's like in their journey and they either are counting themselves out on their passion or they probably don't even think that they can even go explore their passion yet. Like when you reach back and it's a little girl or a young lady or a young woman, what is that piece of feedback or inspiration that you like to share so that they know how to take their next step forward?
So I guess I don't know if it's feedback, but advice that I would give them would be don't expect people to support you the way you picture it or even the way you would support other people. My, I guess, inspirational piece would say do it anyway. Whether you feel like you're rallied behind or not, just try it. I don't think that there is a person out there who is not failing, or has not failed, but they're still doing it. And those people who flourish is because they tried again. And so, I'm hoping that this is my time to flourish. I'm trying it again. So that would be my advice and my little piece of inspiration, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I really do want to have you on for a part 2.
Yeah.
As your business continues to flourish.
Absolutely.
And even after you watch this and you hold your breath through some moments and then you're like, okay, I'm ready to try again. I cannot wait for that opportunity.
Absolutely.
So you just let me know when I can take the pleasure of having you on and seeing more of this side of you. Because I'm enjoying it.
I'm excited for episode 2 because I don't know what it's gonna look like. But
we manifested you're gonna be a travel chef, a travel personal chef for some Nigerian friends of yours who make about $1 million.
Yeah.
And they often travel to Thailand.
Absolutely.
And they might even go back to Nigeria for 6 months. Yeah. Nigeria for 6 months. So you go out there for 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And you provide chef experiences.
Absolutely.
And you invite your friends to come hang out with you in their guest house because they have guest houses.
I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see it all.
Yeah.
I see it all. And I love the part about, my friends being millionaires because, I don't want just me to win. I want them to win.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And if they are millionaires, then that means your prices.
Yep. Go. Yep.
Oh boy! Well, thank you so much for being here, Tunde.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you for sharing the couch.
I was nervous, but this was fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening if you're on the podcast. And so if you resonated with anything that Tunde said today and you want to get connected with her, hey guys, it's Ariel from the Work and Play podcast. If you're getting any value from this channel, and I mean anything from the tutorials to the podcast to the random videos that you see on this channel, then I just ask that you do one thing. Please subscribe. Subscribe and share this to anyone that you think this resonates with, and drop a comment below so I know what other things that you want to see next. Now let's get back to the episode. Tunde, how can the folks get in contact with you?
So my Instagram page is actually at Fried Baked Battered. Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. I check my DMs.
DMs are welcome. Thank y'all so much. Until next time, peace out.